Spud,
Tommy,
isn't Steve Vai a lovely man?
Steve Vai's lovely. Put on your glasses there, will you?
Hold on, where did I put
Put
them?
on your glasses. You look like a hot lesbian school teacher.
I've come from the Duncan Trussell school of hot lesbians. Yeah. Hey.
Is that what lesbians say? I've no idea.
I've no idea. I know Duncan Trussell's constantly on about his raspy lesbian voice, so I have a raspy lesbian
he does
face.
actually, yeah. Have you watched Midnight Gospel? I'm not gone on it.
I watched the first 20 minutes of the first episode and went, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
It's one of those things that I think you have to be stoned to watch, and I'm not going to be stoned watching it. So.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I think it's something that 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I'd have fucking loved.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, yeah, I've done this.
And the other thing is, it's mostly just the stuff from the podcast, and I listen to this podcast, you know. So, and I enjoy consuming. Not every. It's like Joe Rogan. It depends on the guest.
Yeah.
But I enjoy consuming Duncan Trussell as a podcast, and I like. It's if you know the Ricky Gervais thing where they did the animated version of it.
Yeah.
That was good. I enjoyed that because it's another
really
twist in it. But it's this seems to be a much bigger disconnect between what they're talking about and what's going on screen. At least what I've seen, and which is cool. It's great.
Yeah,
it's
see,
brilliant.
The thing is, I reckon maybe this will come out eventually, but maybe I'm guessing, not even guessing. This is my spin on it. I reckon maybe there's certain music tracks that are going to fit along with certain ones, and that you don't have to listen to him at all. You can just listen to Tool or Pink Floyd or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Cradle of Filth. Cradle of Filth would be perfect for it when you're tripping on acid.
Cradle of Filth, yeah. Daniel O'Donnell.
Yeah, maybe. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I'm the same as you. There's too much of a disconnect. It's like, right, I'm concentrating on the animation and then I'm missing what they're talking about, or else I'm listening to what they're talking about and I'm missing out what's just happening in the animation. You know, and the animation. I'm not that big a fan of his. I've tried to like him from You Sending Me stuff, but it's not clicking, and so I think I'd prefer the animation anyway than just because it's just stoner talking. Oh God, I've been there. I've done that. I lived with a drug dealer. You know, I know stoner logic inside. I could write a book about it.
It's funny because with Duncan, like on his own podcast, it's not really like that. Well, it is in place. Depends who he's talked to. But he's like talked about before that he finds it very hard to be stoned, that he gets the paranoid thing and he's not really into it. And then this thing where he's just talking about drugs all the time. I don't know.
Yeah. Why does he take so many drugs then?
Yeah.
You know?
His podcast is mostly spiritual people or comedy people.
Yeah.
Rather than thing. But I mean, I recognise that it's a brilliant cartoon. It's just and I can go, I understand why people love it. It's well done. Everything about it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't ever think I would be in the right frame of mind to sit through 10 episodes of it. Because you can't background TV it because it's not that type of thing. No. I don't know. But still,
you're right.
I'm glad it exists. I'm very happy it exists in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, so good luck to him. What were we saying before there? I cut you off about the whole lesbian stuff.
Oh, right, yeah. No, but just Steve Vai and his
Steve Vai's class. He's
from
lovely,
the Harmony Hut, yeah.
What a nice guy.
Did you manage to make it past the Jesus episode, though?
Yeah, I listened to the one before that.
Right.
Yeah, that was good. I like his sigil hat.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm into the occult. No fucking shit, Steve. Look at your hat, man. Look at your necklaces. Yeah. You got fucking
and I haven't really
wizard written all over you.
I haven't really talked about the esoterica in my entire life, apart from every single interview I've ever read with Steve Vai.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mad one because he's a bit like who was that other guitar virtuoso when we were growing up? Yanni Gigabidula.
Oh, Inwi Malmsteen.
Yanni Mas? Is that the guy with the mad lion's mane of hair? He was like
the classical guy.
Yeah.
Inwi Malmsteen.
So there was both of them were kind of like this big thing. Well, maybe he was around before him, but it was like the person who was giving you the guitar lessons, that's who he was into. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do that. I'll never be able to. No, but you can. Anyone can do it. Yeah, well, I don't want to. I can appreciate it. I think Steve Vai's a fucking amazing guitarist, but that's his bag. I'm not aiming for that, you know.
Yeah, he actually talks about that. He says, someone like Bob Dylan has a certain standard that he needs to express himself, and it's no worse, no better than Steve Vai's standards of it. Like, it's
well,
just
it is
different...
worse. It's definitely worse.
Well, technically worse, but it means from a musician point of view, it's...
no, I disagree. Bob Dylan shit.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of... I'm not a huge fan of Bob Dylan. I know 2 Bob Dylan songs, and they're all right. I do like him in the Travelling Wilburys, though, I have to say. I do like that. He's I don't know. Travelling Wilburys are an interesting band.
Yeah, Wilburys are cool, actually. Yeah. And I like the way that Jack White kind of ripped them off with his second band. What were they called?
Oh yeah, I know what you're on about. That other band. Yeah.
Their albums are really good.
Yeah. What are they called?
I have no idea.
I'm doing not a new game. It's called Using My Brain. Then anytime I see an actor on the screen that I go, what do I know him from? Not going to
don't
IMDb.
Google it. Yeah.
I'm doing it.
And come to us now at the end of the podcast. Wait and see.
Yeah. And it's so hard because like there's and then you get into things like there was one particular program myself and my wife used to watch. It's NCIS, terrible program. Don't watch it, but it's trying to remember all the characters' names in it. I just couldn't get through it. And I've definitely watched whatever it is, 16 seasons of that show. So I've watched like 160 hours of it. Couldn't tell you the name of 2 of the characters.
Yeah, that's a bit mad, all right.
Yeah. But that's only because anytime you try to engage that, you just look it up, and so your brain goes, well, there's no point in remembering any of this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's on the Google.
Yeah.
So.
I spent my morning with Rupert Sheldrake. That was interesting.
Oh, well, how are you finding him?
Oh, man, I love him. You know this churchy thing that you're setting up that fucking... I don't know. With that, Bill Drummond is the patron saint.
Oh, yeah.
I think Rupert fucking deserves an honourable mention here, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know? Well,
I think I actually said cult, not church. So.
Cult, okay, yeah, cult is better. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe she'd look into the whole church thing. With just the
the tax exemption.
Tax. Well, in America at least, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the big money is.
Surely the Catholic Church isn't paying tax in Ireland. I would find that very hard to believe that they are supporting the rest of the country in any way.
I wouldn't think they are paying.
No.
No, I think. Oh no, I know how this works. There's income tax paid. So,
as in the priest himself pays income tax.
As in the priest pays his own income tax from the money he's given every week by the parishioners, but only the money that he's given, rather than, because there's 2 collections in Irish churches, isn't there? There's the collection to the priest, the church, right. And then there's the collection to the parish.
Right.
So I'm fairly sure the parish one isn't taxed, but the other one is. But he's not supposed to be allowed to touch the parish one. That money was just resting in my account.
Yeah. You know that money that you count, and you're the only person who makes a full inventory of it. Yeah, will you be honest with that and make sure that all of that goes to the right channels, please, Mr. Local parish priest, who no one is ever going to come in contact with again, like from the government.
Sheldrake's cool though, man. I mean, I know like he's come up a couple of times in the podcast recently, but this morning I said, oh yeah, okay, I've nothing really lined up that I have to listen to, so I listened to a couple of interviews with him. He was on Russell Brand there, I don't know how long ago. When Russell Brand was in like a kind of radio setup.
Oh right, was he? I don't think I have.
It was pretty good, yeah. And Russell Brand didn't talk a lot, which was great for the interview.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because you're supposed to be interviewing someone, so let your man talk, and he did, and it was fierce interesting. You know, it really, really was.
Yeah, I like him. I think the whole kind. I've read 4 of his books, I think.
Have you?
The Morphic Resonance book, his actual one, I suppose, the thing is, I found it very hard to read. It's very dry. It's the most kind of closer to a scientific type book, but it's certainly not, because I know anyone who had a scientific bed would go, that's not a science book. But it's that kind of style. It's very
just
kind
really
of
academic, like.
Yeah.
Dry.
So I found it hard. But his other one, The Science Set Free, or it's
Science
Delusion, depending on what country you're in.
Yeah.
He says both terrible names, but that's what the publishers told me. He wanted to call it something completely different. That's good, and it's interesting. Like, I mean, there's 10 points he makes that, why science is a religion, and I suppose in a sense, or a belief system.
Yeah.
Scientism rather than science. And some of the things do come up, but when you try and Google it, especially that particular, have you come across that one where he says the speed of light isn't fixed? And the reason why we can never get out of that now is because we judge the speed of light using a measurement that is based on the speed of light as a fixed thing. So like a meter is how fast the speed of light goes within a certain second.
Yeah.
And now we're measuring the speed of light by meters. So it cancels each other out, so you'd never...
All right.
But the only thing I can find about that is people talking about that chapter in the book.
Okay,
So I don't know, but
I guess.
you would assume though, as soon as you Google in or put something into Google that anyone who had, like put in Rupert Sheldrake debunked, you'll find 20 people who go, hold on a minute. And the last time I looked, there wasn't someone even debunking it. There might be since, But it's an interesting kind of thing where he's just kind of going in that kind of Martin Luther thing. Ein Minute, bitte. Hold on. Let's have a look at these things.
Oh, I like it. But then again, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, I suppose it's just that it's a nice thing to believe that everything is connected to everything and everything reacts with everything or interacts with everything. So it's like, he was talking about, actually, it was an interview I think it was in Trinity College in Dublin. One of the societies or something, giving a chat, and he was talking about the sun, and he was saying that every morning he does this Hindu yoga ritual where he acknowledges
salutations.
Hello, whatever it is, but in like a graceful movement or whatever. Well, I don't know yoga.
Yeah, it's the sun salutation from yoga. It's like the main. It's kind of like you stand up, put your hands in the air, do a press up, and then go back up. It's
all right.
It's like that. Yeah.
All right. So, and he was saying where he got this from, and then he kind of went into this thing about how like the sun is in this what's it called, transmorphic, what's it called, morphic resonance.
Morphic resonance, yeah.
So in the idea of morphic resonance, then the sun kind of envelops itself, but then everything that's connected to it. So all of the planets, but then it's also connected to like the other stars and other galaxies because it's also a star. So this star's connected to that star, connected to that star, and then it's connected. So it's all like everything is in a kind of interlocking kind of bubble, and they get smaller and smaller as they go down, and it's.
Yeah, that seems kind of logical to me. Like that whole thing that anything separated retains some sort of that spooky action.
Yeah, the thing with the rats. That's a mad experiment.
Yeah, it's the big thing I suppose about the morphic resonance thing is his idea is that nature doesn't have laws; it has habits, and that it has. So that if something happens a number of times, it's more likely to happen that way rather than it's always going to happen that way. So that when a new crystal is formed, the second instance of that exact same crystal is more likely to happen quicker than the thousands of years before this. Yeah. And so they kind of did some tests where the rats thing. So they in London, I don't know if that's the thing. You can correct me. They sort of made a maze, and the rats took 3 weeks to be able to work it out. And then they left all those rats in London and went with the same maze to Paris and give different rats the maze, and they learned it in a week.
More sophisticated rats, we must add.
Well, only because the London rats have...
They're from Paris, Ooh la la!
Oh, yeah.
Got like twirly moustaches and garlic.
Yeah, and then they went to Ireland and all the rats were drinking Guinness. So I'm not getting anywhere near that maze. Or that idea that the Times crossword is easier to do at night than it is in the morning because people have corrected it. But all of that's, like, the rats thing, I suppose, is falsifiable, but the Times crossword probably isn't. Like it probably is it? Like if I give you a week of doing the Times crossword in the morning, and then the next week was the Times crossword in the evening, and you did it quicker. But that's all dependent on you being able to successfully get the Times one every day. I don't know. I'm sure there's... And then how would you apply? You'd have to do a crossword that wasn't part of the Times?
There was one he was talking about on the Russell Brand one, and he was talking about this... he said he'd written a book on it about how animals are telepathic.
Oh yeah, the sense being stared at. Yeah.
About
dogs
the dogs
know when their owners are coming home.
Yeah, dogs know when their owners are coming home, and like the owners would come home at different times of day. They'd come home in different cars, or else they'd walk in instead of driving in and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, look, I have the data here. And science will say it's anecdotal, but he said something that I thought was kind of cool. He said that the plural of anecdote is data. It's like, oh yeah, you fucking got him there, baby. That's fucking good.
Richard Wiseman. Do you know who Richard Wiseman is? He used to be a ghost hunter. He was a sort of a sciencey guy who then became a debunker, and he's like a big debunking kind of dude. He did the exact same experiments in the dogs who know when their owner's coming home, and he got the same results, but he then took a different conclusion from it.
What was
his conclusion that it's rubbish, it's bullshit, reductionist materialism, wave my flag, Dawkins for president, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Dawkins wouldn't be that bad a president, though. He'd be all right.
Well, he's like
Could be worse.
it could be
you know?
worse.
Boris Johnson, do you know?
I know, like I mean, there's like it's how bad would you have to be a worse politician than what's going on right now? Although Leo's doing all right. Like I mean, I know he's far from the best as well, but like it's at least in Ireland, like someone who has a health education of some description, being the Taoiseach. Maybe it isn't, but
at least he's not a teacher, because Ireland's had decades of teachers ruling, and teachers are fucking idiots, man. All they ever are is like one chapter ahead of everyone else. That's it, like.
You think too highly of teachers. A page out. Did you see the footage of the Belgian Prime Minister, whatever the equivalent Belgian?
I heard about it. What happened? They turned their back.
So she, as far as I can gather, she was the health minister a couple of years ago and defunded the equivalent of the health. I was going to say NHS, but I mean, what's the Irish one called? Just the Irish Health Service. So the health service defunded them. So all of the doctors and nurses are waiting outside for this presidential visit or prime minister visit. And as the car comes through, each of them turn around,
nice.
put the face up back. It's awesome.
That's good.
It's like, you can just tell, we'll go to the hospital, we'll get, this will be great, we get in the newspapers, and everyone will look happy, shake some hands, and then you can just see them going, we made a terrible mistake.
You probably won't remember them, but you probably would have heard of them when, would have been around when you were born. It was before when I was born. What are you, 80 or 79?
77.
You're 77? Yeah. Old man on the back porch. Old man on the back.
I'm officially Generation X.
Okay, you probably don't remember him though. There was the silent protests during the hunger strikes of the IRA prisoners and the Republican prisoners. Do you remember them?
I know. I don't remember. Like, I mean, it's hard to know what these things because they're so ingrained in you, kind of going. But I doubt I remember them growing up. I couldn't.
So there were just these protests of people who would dress all in black like they were for funerals, but it was just completely silent, like a funeral march. There's a weird thing. And I don't know where I get this from. It's a bit like your Mandela effect and the house. You went to see a house and
Yeah.
I know, and I don't know if I dreamt it or what, or how. I just had this feeling that I was at one of them.
Right.
Yeah. It's a strange thing. I remember hearing about them in school and just getting this fucking deja vu. I was like, I was at one of them. And thinking it, and then like seeing the date, it was like 1981. I was like, it couldn't have been me. I wasn't born, unless my ma was at it and I was in her belly, and I just have this fucking weird. I honestly, I don't know, but I just remember walking down in silence, but it wasn't. It's not a funeral, And
it's definitely not that scene from James Bond, Live and Let Die, where they're walking down very solemn and then they turn into the big party that you're confused.
No, I wouldn't remember that. No,
I remember as a child being. Having this memory and then saying it to my mum one day, and she went, "What are you on about?" And the memory is that I was up in a helicopter with Mickey Rooney. And like I saw that happened. That was a thing that happened, and I said, "Wasn't I, Mum? Wasn't I up in a helicopter with Mickey Rooney?" And she went, "What?" Mandela effect. In my universe, Mickey Rooney used to give helicopter rides to small children.
How did you even know Mickey Rooney at that age? What had he'd been in Champ probably, was it? Champ!
I have no idea. I've really no idea. Like, Mickey Rooney seemed to have played a bigger part in my life than most people, so I suppose at that age, in that he was, helicopter. I don't even think he was the helicopter pilot. I think he was just there. I've not, like, what do you do with that?
That's mad, huh? Yeah. What's the film? What films was he in that you would have known as a kid? There's only Champ, isn't there?
Well,
Champ is the boxing one.
Yeah. So I have seen that. So
yeah,
and I've seen that in the cinema. So that's probably down where.
Champ's fucking heartbreaking, man.
It is heartbreaking.
Oh, Jesus Christ! God Almighty. Anyway, because everything else was like kind of like over 18s kind of stuff, wasn't it? There's no way you watched it.
Yeah, but remember in the 80s in Ireland, you could get like all the ninja films, all the kung fu's. There's no problem.
Yeah.
No problem. What age are you? 9. Grand. You're grand here.
This is for your dad. Yeah.
American Ninja 4. That's the film for you.
Yeah. So that's mad. This angel keeps bothering me, man.
Oh, right. Tell me.
No, she's not bothering me at all. In case she's listening. She's always listening. She's everywhere. I don't know what to do.
She watches you masturbate.
I like that, though.
That's one of the benefits.
Taking the sigils. Oh, yeah. Christ almighty. Yeah, we were talking on the Discord about something that had happened, because I explained it all last week.
Yes.
And I think it must have been the day after that, or it was the day of re-recording, and we didn't end up talking about it. So I asked her, I repeated Alan Chapman's mantra thing again, and she said, Amon Tobin was what I heard. So Amon Tobin, I looked it up. I thought, like, I knew it was a music producer.
Okay.
Is he DJ or producer? What would you call him?
I don't know him at all. I've never heard
well,
him.
he's brilliant, but
Yeah.
he's kind of he's kind of like, who would he be like? DJ Shadow, but he's not DJ.
Yeah, it's a producer.
Cut
like
chemist,
they hate
producer.
being called a DJ, so
Yeah, he's a producer.
A musician.
Digital musician. Right? He doesn't play on
one guitar. That's an analog. It's just a musician. Just a guy who makes music.
Okay, so a musician. So she said, and I looked it up because I thought maybe that Amon Tobin he took his name from somewhere. You know, it's a thing, and I should look it up. And no, so I just put on the playlist. Listen, while I was working, nothing was really happening. But that evening, then my mum was on the phone and she was barking to me outfit or whatever. No, her outfit. I said, I have to get out of here. So I went into the kitchen and put on and I was reading Alan Chapman's and Duncan, what's his name's book, and I put on some, The Urn, that one.
Yeah.
And so I put on some Pink Floyd and just nothing was happening. And I said, oh, fuck it, I'll put on Thing again. And next thing, this video came up about, and it's a new one. It came out on the 16th of April, which is, can't really give away, but it's an important date. Anyway, for me. And
is that when you murdered your first child? Is it?
That's exactly the date when I murdered my not my first, my favourite.
Okay. Missing 411. I have the solution.
It's a smelly, hairy thing, but it's not that not that tall. Yeah.
It doesn't have big feet or any big appendages for that matter.
Has a shock of red hair. Fiery as the gates of hell. So it has this video of this fella kind of casting off his work life, his suit, and he's running on the street. He gets naked, and then he takes his leap of faith off the White Cliffs of Dover, and then he lands upside down in the upside down land, and it's all good. So I was like, well, holy fucking shitballs. Thank you, Minerva. That definitely speaks to me. And I've had a couple more things as well. Very strange, because
share them. Come on. Unless you don't want to, and then
no,
don't share them.
There was one or two. You're all going to think I'm bonkers now.
Jesus Christ. Do you know what podcast you're on?
I suppose. I suppose. So the other day then, as well, and it hasn't been coming in dreams. It's been coming in this thing that I've told you about. It's between the waking up and...
A liminal state. It's not what we could call it.
So I just wake up and I just repeat the mantra, and she just tells me whatever she's going to tell me, or I'm shown something, or whatever. So in this one, she heard something. She said something like, "I'll show you," or "Let me show you something," something like that.
Ooh.
So next thing I could see this, like a cupboard press, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, the doors were closed with this, this hook and hole.
Oh yeah.
One of them, a really flimsy brass one. So it was like, okay. So I opened it, and as I opened it, then it was kind of this. It was like really white. Really, really, really white. Pure as the fucking virgin snow, So I went in to touch it, and it was all like marshmallowy. Oh. And then at that moment, then it was like the press kind of fell away, and it was a square, okay? But it was the square, but it was a square that was part of a cube. And then I turned around to her and I said, "This is God." And, right? yeah.
God is a marshmallow.
And then I woke up.
Right.
No, but it must come from this thing. A lot of what do you call it? Shamanistic tribes and all that have this belief. Some of them have this thing that God is a cube.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, and there's loads. Look it up. There's tons and tons of stuff about this. It's in Joseph Campbell's book, and that's where I first came across it. But it's in other tribes and stuff.
Right, I have not come across.
Have this belief that the Godhead is a cube or something like that.
Is that something like there's a cube is it a cube on Saturn? Or it's a hexagon, isn't it? The perfect hexagon on the...
That's right, yeah. Your man, what's the name of your man? He has brilliant Saturn conspiracies.
The guy you sent the Twitter link to me. Yeah, I can't remember.
What the fuck is his name?
David Icke.
Brilliant. Yeah, David Icke, yeah. There was another one as well. What was it? That's the brass and hook one. What was the other one? Oh, yeah, there was another one this morning. When I woke up this morning... I same thing. Just repeating the mantra. Heard nothing at all, and I got up and I don't put
Just tell people the mantra just so that they can try it too.
Oh, I'm on the spot now. What is it? I am. No, what is it? Wait, shit.
I consent. To the knowledge and
I
common-
consent to the knowledge and conversation to the holy guardian angel.
Yeah.
Right. And I stick her name at the end of it to make sure.
Right.
You know?
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And so this morning, and I usually get up and I put on the radio. I hardly ever put on Spotify. It's usually radio, but I've stopped doing that now because it's misery and news and you know. So I don't. So Spotify now. So I went to Spotify, and the first thing that came up was a song by a band called Sun Ra, and the song was called
Spud, you are awakened.
Get this, Door of the Cosmos.
Oh, come on, man.
Pretty cool, huh? So I was like, wow. No, the song is dog shit, but you know. I don't like Sun Ra. Who's the other band with Sun? It's Sun O, isn't it? Sun O. They're really good.
Oh, are they?
But Sun Ra is like this freeform, weird jazz. It's just muck, especially first thing in the morning. So, okay, Minerva, your taste in music.
Sun Ra, freeform or jazz. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll check that out.
Not really my thing, but yeah, maybe you like it. Yeah, and then maybe I just kind of read into that and says, okay, so I'll go listen to Rupert Sheldrake.
Yeah, because his new book, the book he's working on, is about our son, having a consciousness and being conscious.
Right. Yeah. So it must be fairly recent then, the Russell Brand one, because that came up.
It must be. Although, he could be working on it a year. You know, like it could have been set to come out before the lockdown, or maybe it is out because no, his last one is not. It's spiritual practices.
I had another one.
Right.
A couple of days ago,
Jesus,
and she was. I know, it's madness, man. You know, and she was protecting. I just had this vision. She was protecting the. Is it Romulus and Remus? Isn't it the brothers who founded Rome?
The wolf thing.
Yeah, you know the wolf, and they're sucking at the wolf's tit. It's fucked up. But she had this big shield, and she was protecting them, which was a bit mad. And
have you Googled that then? Is there a correlation? No. She's also the goddess of learning or something. I think you mentioned to me.
Yeah, she's loads of stuff, man. She's like one of their main head honchos of the Roman gods. Like it's pretty mad.
Did you ask her for a sigil? Did you do any of that kind of stuff?
No, I didn't, and I'll tell you why. Because the first morning after it happened, what the fuck am I saying? The morning that it happened, first contact.
Had to sign this contract. Set up a standing order.
I had been working on this symbol for the woodworking stuff because I'm working on a new website to get that out on the woodworking, and I want to have something that I can stamp on the back of it that's going to be mine, you know.
Yeah.
And I've been playing around with this idea for a couple of weeks, and that afternoon I was on the laptop and I had, it's like a triangle with what I'd been aiming for was a triangle with MW, so like Murphy woodwork, but the lines of the triangle and the W were all going to meet with each other.
Oh, okay,
so it'd be a triangle, and all that really would be in it with a V.
Yeah.
But you'd be able to read an MW, and it just wasn't working, you know. So the young fella came over to me, and he stood beside me. He said, "Ta ta 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 ta. Do a round thing. Do a round thing." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I did a circle, and he said, "Okay, now, okay," and then a line through it, like kind of curved. I says, "Cool, okay." And so then I made one of the bottom corners of the triangle kind of longer.
Right.
Like that. And then I incorporated the MW into it. And he says, "What do you think of that?" I says, yeah, that's it. So I left it out. And then one of the other mornings then, I did ask her.
Yeah.
I said, is the sigil okay? And she hasn't said no. So
right, okay.
I'm going to take that as, it's fucking mad, man.
That's mental. Like,
it is mental.
Great. Like, there's a couple of kind of classically, I suppose, ways of then communicating outside of those things. You could get into a pendulum if you want, if you have one, or you can just make one. They're handy enough, and kind of you can get yes or no or don't know answers from them. You can pull out the Ouija board if you would. But that stuff that's spare. What did we settle on? Spare. The automatic writing. You should try that kind of stuff, or the drawing or stuff like that, because that could be fairly interesting. Particularly while you're in
keeping the journal and all, like.
Oh wow, you're a proper wizard.
Well, I mean, so many people talk about doing this. I was like, okay, I better do it, because you do forget these things, you know.
You do, yeah.
So
what do you think it is? Like, are you full woo on it, this thing? Or
man, balls deep on Minerva. I've got three women in my life now, you know.
Right.
The wife, the baby, and Aga doesn't fucking believe me, right? We were talking about this, and she was, I listened to your podcast. I was like, okay. So I left it there for half an hour. We were walking. So, what do you think about the angel? And she's like, yeah, I don't know if I believe you. I was like, what the fuck do you mean I don't fucking believe? Well, you don't believe me. And she, no, well, like, because I know you, she said. I was like, well, fuck you, I said.
Yeah.
You know, she's like, no, because, like when you tell stories, you do, you add extra bits. And then, I was like, well, yeah, that's because I'm Irish and we add embellishments.
That's what we
just
do,
salt and pepper. Instead of saying there was 5 people.
We know the people we're talking to aren't interested, so we can lie to keep them interested.
No, but it's like, there's no point telling the story and saying there was 5 people in the pub. You tell, there was at least 50. You know?
Yeah. You've seen the alien.
So then I was like, okay, so what bit did I embellish? What bit did I make up? And then she couldn't tell me any. So then,
you hadn't mentioned it to her at all before.
I hadn't said anything. I was waiting for her to listen to the podcast.
Right.
So,
for the announcement of the other woman.
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think of this other woman then?
No, but then, as we were talking, and she's like, okay, no, I believe you heard something, but I think for her, she's trying to work out, what's the logic behind it? Where does this name come from, or what is this thing actually? And I was like, yeah, well, okay, I don't know. I have no idea, but sure.
Yeah. But she's not anti-woo, like you were saying. She's more woo than you suspect it. Probably.
Yeah.
Just good.
She still won't give me her tarot cards though.
Oh well, you see, maybe she's lying.
Which is fine.
Maybe she's embellishing that she has cards.
She probably turns them every morning, man.
Yeah.
No.
What's he up to today?
Yeah, that's why she's like, I'm fucking using them, and she's afraid to tell me she's using them or something. I don't know. It's good crack though. I mean, it's mad. I mean, what's weird as well is that a couple of people have got in touch with me on the Discord and all. Like, oh yeah, this is great. Isn't it? We're all fucking happy families now. We're all doing this together. It's like, yeah, it's class.
Cool.
And then there's other people like, yeah, I've been doing this for fucking 50 years and nothing.
I'm sure. I haven't got it. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, but delighted. Like, that's kind of it's great to hear it because a number of things. Like one, it's possible. So it gives you a kind of incentive to continue. But also, it's great to see your journey. Like that's awesome. Like I like him. I enjoy living vicariously through your eyes, man.
What's mad is that, like, as I read the Urn, it's kind of like
the second one. You finished Blood of the Saints, I assume, then, did you?
Oh, sorry, Blood of the Saints first.
Yeah.
So as I'm reading that, it's kind of like, they're like, well, the Holy Guardian Angel. That's the easy bit. That's the first
that's
step.
What it starts.
Yeah, that's the first step. Like, if you want enlightenment, like the next bit is the journey into the abyss.
Yeah.
And then there's what's after that. But I mean, at the same time, it's like I don't know if I'm really after this karmic enlightenment or whatever. Like, I just want
say
to
that
be.
now. 3 weeks time, Spud comes in and go, I'm fully awakened. I'm an enlightened being. I'm at the centre of the universe. I know all. Just ask me anything. I know. It's fine.
No, but what I mean is that, like, I mean, I want to be more creative, more artistic, that kind of stuff. But also, more in tune with myself and all that. But I'm not after the sitting on a mountaintop.
Well, neither is Alan Chapman and Duncan Barford. In fairness,
I think. Have you listened to his Magier stuff?
Magia, like.
God, he sounds miserable, doesn't he?
He sounds what?
He sounds fucking miserable.
Yeah, that was the first thing, and a lot of people kind of it sounds like he's pissed off. To kind of say it's like, but let me see. What can I say about this? I'll put it this way. He sounds like he's in a trance, possibly, which might explain thing. But you'd have to ask Alan about that. No, I spent about 3 months last year really delving into that kind of stuff, and particularly with a group of people as well, and we kind of really had a good look at it.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I've listened to the first section. And I think it's great. I'm going to listen. I'll listen to as many. I'll get through all. I know I will.
There's is it an analogy or when you tell a story, but it's really not about the story, it's about something else? An analogy?
That's an analogy,
rather than a metaphor, which is just the singular description, isn't it? But there's another word I always forget. Anyway, there's a bit at the end. It's about a fishing village and casting out to get fish, which is lovely. It's really, really nice. It's very short kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. To look forward to. There's some great stuff in it. And I mean, like what I liked particularly about, say, the Blood of the Saints, the Urn, and Desert of Roses is like really, really small. So it's not like you have 3 huge books. It's kind of the same thing that I got from Stuart Wilde. Is that it's kind of, well, I don't want to sit around here for 10,000 lives trying to get things. can I get this next week?
Yeah,
and how do I get it next week?
Yeah.
And you kind of go, well, like, oh, you can't do that. Why not? And then they go and do that.
And do it, No, they're dead right.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, like enlightenment when we hear it. Well, for me anyway, the first thing I think of is a Maharishi, whatever they're called, sitting on the top of a mountain in fucking Kathmandu, off his head on hash, and he's at one
with Grant Morrison.
Grant Morrison, and they're just, life is great and all that. And I don't know if I'm after that type of enlightenment. I don't know if I'm after any enlightenment. I just, like I say, I just want to be good at writing and some art stuff, and I want to be a good dad and a good brother and a good husband.
But I think it is one of those things that, the chase for enlightenment and awakening or whatever, is that it's like that. Then you get it, and it's like, all right, okay.
Oh, that's
now I still have to go to work. You know what I mean? It's that whole same thing of before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's that kind of thing. Or there's another one about a mountain. Before enlightenment, it's a mountain. Then when you get enlightened, you realize what it is, and then after enlightenment, it's just a mountain again.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'll keep going, but we'll see. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's fun.
Fun, yeah. It's kind of trying to debate, I suppose, in one sense, whether you should have a plan for it or kind of or to see where it's going to kind of go. Because I know, just from talking to other people, that it can kind of fizzle out if you want, because you're kind of waiting for something to happen. You know that thing in Hellier where they do this big kind of momentum towards the end, as if something's going to happen, and then nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, should you, I don't know, have something in place that you kind of have a goal with or something? But I don't know, maybe not.
I don't know as well. I've been thinking about that as well. Like what, but like, it's not like it's a genie in a lamp and I can ask for wishes or anything like that. And
how
maybe
have you asked for a wish?
Yeah, but see, I'm like you. Like I don't want to be given it, and I want to get it for myself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's why my life has been fucking arseways and done completely backwards. But at least I've done it my way.
Yeah. It's
and
like
it will be the
my
same
thing
with
is,
this.
I want to know. It's not necessarily I want to say, right, the greatest song in the world, whatever is the thing, and you could hire in some songwriters and we'd sit around and have a great song. I want to see what's the best song.
Yeah, I don't want to be Beyonce.
No, how far can I push my abilities, or what can I produce, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's like a spirit guide, to use like the Native American type of thing. It's just a bit of guidance. I mean,
I'll tell you. Here's the perfect thing. Ask her what you should do.
Yeah. Well, that is what I ask in like with the mantra, but also in the back of my head, I'm like, what should I know? Is there anything you can tell me? Is there anything I should know? Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
So God is made of marshmallows.
Well, sure. I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's as good a story as any.
God is fucking delicious.
So is that why you created the devil in hell, so you get a bit toasty? Is it like this kind of... I feel a bit,
maybe so, man. Maybe. That's a good one. Yeah. Right. Get on to this.
Yeah, only 40 minutes into the podcast. That's a new record.
We'll never get the 7 done.
So you have been getting into the Kybalion, right? This is what the thing we're going to go with. And it's the Kybalion, I suppose, to me, is something I'm very aware of. I have read a while back, and I'm kind of vaguely familiar with it. But I kind of got put off it, I suppose, by the sheer amount of people who dislike it. And that, there is a thing, I suppose, in magic or in the cult circles where people like to have their stuff based in fact, and there's another kind of book called the Simon Necronomicon, which is pretty much probably written by Peter Levenda in the late 70s. And so it's considered a fake, but it's still, particularly with chaos magic, I don't think it matters if it's fake or not. So I probably would go back to the Kybalion. I actually did buy it recently as well, so I'll read it. But I'm just kind of interested in what your thoughts are, and what you kind of, what your approach is, what you think of it, and then, in a sense, sell me on the Kybalion.
But look, it's I suppose at its most basic, it's 7 principles or rules that govern just the universe.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but some of these, like Crowley used to have, the one he used to say is as above, so below.
Yeah.
But in the Hermeticism meaning, it's that like it kind of goes from like, so the planets and suns the planets and the stars and the suns, they all act in this way, but also like we can get that down. Like humanity also acts in a similar way.
Right,
A
right,
fucking
right.
anthill acts in a similar way.
So
The
it's
atoms that make up the ground.
The microcosm and the macrocosm.
Yeah.
That thing. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, so there's stuff like that. But and it's just, I mean, I think it just kind of comes up when you look into occult stuff, Hermes and Hermeticism.
Well, I think one of the main complaints about the Kybalion is, of course, is that a lot of people say it's not actually Hermetic. It's loosely based on some Hermetic kind of teachings, but that it's more coming out of the New Thought, Christian Science, kind of early 1900s American New Ageness, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I mean we're into reality transfer, which equally comes from all of that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, but not American. You know?
Yeah, but no, we like the Russian version
of
New Thought.
Yeah. I mean, look, but when I was looking up Hermes as well, so I got this a while ago. The Secret.
Oh yeah,
Secret Teachings of All Ages, the Manly one. It's very badly written. Have you got this?
I have it on the Kindle, and I think of it. Yeah, I have an audiobook of it as well. But I think there's a number of different versions. I think one of the ones that they're giving out about that I've seen on Amazon is that it was taken from wholesale from like when the internet started and people were typing in books and they're all terrible. I think the actual text of a couple of them is taken.
Yeah,
from
and I'd say that's probably what this is because there's loads of grammar mistakes in it.
Right.
Like there's a couple of places where sentences are in the wrong.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a bit mad, like, but you know, whatever. But you like, I mean, that Alan Chapman book, what's it was called? The Urn, not the Urn, the Blood of the Saints.
Yeah.
Ah, Jesus, that's a mess. You know.
Oh, it's certainly a mess now because none of the URLs work in it at all.
Oh, no, because there's a lot of words that are put together and stuff, and you have to.
Oh, is there?
Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, I know. Enough of that's incidental talk.
You know, he talks about Hermes here and where it comes from, because Hermes was okay. So if you go back far enough, then with Hermeticism, it's supposed to come from Hermes. I don't know what the fuck his surname is. It's mad.
Trimiskegener.
And that means
the thrice mighty.
It's like the thrice mighty. So he was the master of the soul, the master of the spirit, and the master of the land or the earth or something like that. And so apparently he was a god. Or he became an Egyptian god, and whenever you see the the death rituals where where they're weighing up the heart, so he's the guy that's in the background taking the notes. So
is it not Anubis who does that, or not?
No, Anubis does it. He judges it, but Thoth is in the background like the accountant, and he's writing it down.
Oh, right, because he's Hermes is part of communication, so I suppose writing.
Writing and teaching and stuff like that. So apparently he has 42 books. Some say it's 78 books. There's a bit of debate. It's probably 42. But even then, like, the Kybalion has, if you look up any criticism of it all, they're like, look, Hermes didn't write the books at all. It was all oratory.
Right.
And, and another thing is that it's like, well, it's so similar to Plato and his philosophy that maybe Plato came first.
Right. Okay. But so what?
Whatever, it's still. Yeah. I still think the rules are very useful and very good. And whether it's Plato or Hermes, then sure. I mean, they're both sound lads, like as far as I'm concerned.
Plato had some issues.
Yeah, he did. In fairness,
his Republic's a bit bad.
This is funny as well. Is that of all these kind of, ancient philosophers, Hermes has kind of gotten away with it with the Catholic Church or the Christian Church, and there was some popes and etc. have said stuff like, well, he's Christian in spirit. It's like he was the first Christian, but he was obviously a heathen and is burning in hell. Right. Which is so. Is there
kind of like he's considered an actual real world person who existed at some point, maybe or is it? Is it more or less vaguer than Jesus was an actual person?
Yeah, well, there's different ones. So he was either one person who was so awesome that they made him into a god, right? Or else he was...
a bit like what they'll do when I die. Yeah.
Exactly what's going to happen to you. And then another thought is that, well, he was actually three people, but it was a father, then a son, and then another son, and they were all called Hermes. Right. And they had established this school of mysticism and yada 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 in not just mysticism but astrology, astronomy, what else? and he's supposed to have learned all his astronomy stuff from the older Persian philosopher Zohar. What's his name?
Zoroaster.
Yeah,
Zoroaster,
him.
yeah.
Yeah. So like,
Right.
I was trying to look up as well today, like who is the oldest philosopher that we know of, and so if Hermes was who people say he was, it's not him. Do you know?
Yeah.
But if Hermes is who he says or who they think he was, then he was around at the time of Moses. But like before Moses would have been the Zoroaster.
Yeah, and you would have had, I suppose, Empedocles and Parmenides and all of those dudes. But I mean,
But they would have come after the Egyptians, wouldn't they?
Well, yeah, they would have, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
so
course.
that's the Greeks.
Yeah,
So I think the oldest that's still known is this Persian guy, you know, and he's the one who came up with zodiac stuff.
Right. Okay,
You know, and apparently Hermes is supposed to have learned it from him because the Persians took over Egypt about 500 BC. So that would kind of match up if he was around at the time. But the big criticism is that, like, okay, well, the writings of Hermes, like, we can date them to like 1 AD.
Okay.
You know, so but then again, it could be something like a druid tradition in Ireland. Like the Druids did it orally. Oh God.
Oh, nice.
That just came out.
I'm sure it did.
Sorry, love. Tenacious D, yeah. You shouldn't have fucked me so hard.
So the Druids used to say it to each other using their mouth.
Yeah, they would use words and speak to each other and pass it down through the generations of the people who went to the school, and then it got written down eventually. So whichever one you want it. That's the kind of history of it. But his book, the Manly P. Hall stuff, if anyone has it, like there's a very good chapter in it about the different theories about it, and it goes into some of the principles as well.
What did you just hit there?
Here, we'll get on to the first. The first principle is mentalism. So the all is mind, the universe is mental. So
this is essentially idealism, but it's philosophical idealism in that it's the mind of God, isn't it? Not the kind of idea.
So the all is mind. So it has two meanings here. So the all is God is the creator, but the all is also everything that's in it. Like the way I was trying to putting it for myself is that, like, right, well, imagine that, like, okay, we don't know what dark matter is. We've no bloody idea what dark matter is, and even
or if it's an actual thing, we're not sure not either.
If it is, and your man who was doing a big experiment in Hungary there, like a month or two ago, instead of finding out what dark matter is, he's after finding something that's really important but isn't dark matter. So
is it milk matter, as in the chocolate kind of thing? It's like
white
it's not
matter.
quite dark matter. There's a bit more milk products in it and some sugar.
So it's like if you could imagine that, like, dark matter is the all. It is everything because it's all around us. Dark matter isn't like the air is around us, but like what is the air in? So the air is in dark matter. So then dark matter might be the all, the creator. You know. But
so this kind of classical thing that they had of the ether that was kind of
exactly. It was the ether. Yeah. And so like and then as well, it's the belief or the thing that, like, if you look around your desk, for example, everything in front of you is. It's tangible, it's physical, but that was someone's idea before,
right? Yes,
and so your mind, the universe is mental because the mind makes the universe, And then okay, just for argument's sake, you have some flowers on your desk, yeah. Well, Hermetic would say that, but the flower is the product. Or is the thought of two things? It's the thought of the flower, because the flowers they're not conscious beings like us, but they're alive,
sentient in some way.
Sentient, yeah. But also they are the result of the creator. He made. So
explain this to me. Is it saying that? Is it a matrix? Is that the kind of thing, or is it saying that there's some like? Is there an actual tangible out there, or is it all, for want of a better word, an illusion or a dream, or what?
No, well, their thing is that we're all in the mind of the creator.
Right.
God, yeah, we're all in, but it's not. It's real because we're here.
Yeah.
It's not a matrix. It's not like you're going to wake up and oh shit, everything's different. There are different planes of consciousness.
Do I exist as something outside of this? What my perception of now? Like, if you have a dream, and John's in your dream,
it's like
he doesn't exist outside your dream.
No, it's like the Grant Morrison thing of that, like this God, this creator or whatever. It's we are his idea, but we're also part of him.
Right.
You get me?
Right.
And
Okay.
the reason that we're real, and this is in the Manly book, or Manly P. Hall book, is that when God created man, man saw his reflection and went, "Oh, I like that," and then became mortal. So
Right.
it was
Which
by
is strange because talking about Alan Chapman, his kind of assertion is that man happened because it seen the creator and went, "Oh, I don't like that," and turned away and made a
Okay.
false conclusion
That's
about it. So I mean, but
interesting.
I suppose it's the same. It's a turning away from
Yeah.
the. Yeah.
He had another thing as well. That's Chapman. Well, you said it. He said there, your thoughts are seeds. No, sorry, this is from the Kybalion. Your thoughts are seeds. Plant positive seeds in your mind garden. And Alan Chapman uses this metaphor of the seed a lot.
Seeds,
you
yeah,
are
yeah.
a seed. The seed knows how to grow and how it wants to grow. So, like,
To
nourish
become the
it.
tree that becomes the forest. All that
Yeah.
stuff.
So that's the first one. It's the easiest one to think of. Just and it's as well to think that, like, everything you experience through your mind. Like, even though you touch it, even though you touch something, like, you only feel it because your mind tells you to feel it.
Yeah.
So then everything becomes mind over matter. Then because you're
So it's essentially just idealism in that
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
all
yeah.
Right.
It's all an
Well,
idea.
I'm okay. I'm down with that. I'm good with that. Yeah, because I mean, it is like that's one of the big things that Rupert Sheldrake, going back to him, talks about. He's a great. I think he did. It's a Google talk he did, and he's talking about that he trying to work out, is there a thing out there so that when my eye looks at something, is it actually looking at something and then reflecting back? Of course, we know that your eye sees everything but what you're seeing and upside down, all that kind
Yeah.
of mad stuff. But is there an actual tangible thing out there? And of course, the reductionist materialists would say, of course, there's a tangible thing out there that we're interacting with. But the mentalism or idealism saying, no, the thing out there doesn't exist without us. Like that
Yeah.
where, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I kind of like that more. I think that's more in line with how I view creativity and
Yeah.
idea
Just
space
like-
and all that kind of stuff.
There's the whole thing of that, like, like as things, humans or whatever, like, we can only see what is in the scope of our frequency range. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fuck knows what else is out there that we're not seeing.
Thing right
but like,
beside me, I go,
no, but like for example, like even infrared rays.
Yeah.
Like, there's birds. Birds can see with infrared. Does that mean they're more?
they can see magnetic fields as well. They
Yeah.
reckon.
So does that mean they're more advanced than us? No, probably not. But it just means they see differently, and wow, that'd be pretty cool. Like.
And dogs like to poo in a particular direction as well. That's so
Yeah,
strange.
they always point to the north, don't they?
Or something,
Or
yeah.
usually, yeah. That's fucking mad. We tested that on our dog years ago, and it's fucking true. It's very strange. Yeah. Right, next one is correspondence. Principle of correspondence. So that you'll know this from Crowley.
Right.
That which is above is like to that which is below. That which is below is like to that which is above. The macroism and the microism. That's a different way of saying it.
Macrocosm and microcosm.
Yeah. So the very small and are reflections of each other. The universe is holographic. It is self-similar across all scales.
It's a hologram. Yeah, that's mostly coming from the tablets, the Emerald Tablets of Hermes, isn't it? That what that's called, or the Emerald Tablets, whatever. I don't know if it's that which is above is below. So I mean, it's that kind of thing that it's very obvious, when you see kind of the pictorial things of electrons and neutrons, and then you look at the planets and you go, that's very vaguely familiar. But there's also this kind of notion, and this is coming again, bringing into Alan Chapman stuff as well, like that if something is in, it's like, say something is in our consciousness here, then it has to be a reflection of how it is in the other reality or in the lower things. So that if we can make, in a sense, a false conclusion or whatever, then it has to mean that there's there's a bigger kind of false conclusion that can be made, in the same way that, I suppose that things can happen in dreams in a kind of a smaller, more pointed way than they do in real life, because, dreams, while they can be quite complicated and weird, they're very specific. And, you're a detective. You're not a detective who has a kid who's worrying about this, and, and all of this kind of stuff that real life is like. So it's the correspondence is
but
that...
there's stuff as well as that, like, if you have a happy life, you're going to usually have happy dreams.
Right.
unless
Yeah.
there's something going on. And if there's something going on, then you need to address that. You know, if you're having nightmares, but everything on the outside and your life is wonderful, but then why are you having nightmares? So there's something going on there, you know.
So I suppose the implication is that if we can be fooled or see some sort of illusion, then there has to be a bigger illusion too.
Yeah, and also a smaller one as well.
And a smaller one as well.
You know, because it's like.
And
I
I
said,
suppose that leaves it open then for the sympathetic magic stuff as well. That, you know, that kind of idea that you can have something that represents something else, because that seems to be the way reality works. You know, it's like people go like, well, why would a voodoo doll work? Well, number one, it doesn't probably work the way Hollywood would tell you, but it's because you're taking something and deciding it's related or representation of something bigger. Yeah. And then you do the thing to that thing with the kind of, well, I mean, all of magic is practically, you know, sympathetic magic, sigils, hypersigils, creativity, you know, the witch's broth or whatever. You know, I have news, which turns out to be like marshmallows or something. It's not really that.
Yeah. They talk about as well in throughout the book about how to kind of move up a notch on the planes of existence, you know?
Right.
And so having all of these things in balance lead you to kind of better places, you know? And so you know that yourself. Like if you're in a good mental health, then everything is good around you, you know? If you're in good physical health, then your mental health tends to be good too.
Is there a chance of then the whole idea of spiritual bypassing and victim blaming coming into that, though, that if you have a shit life, then it's really your fault?
No, because it tells you that... What does it tell you specifically? But it's kind of that, like, well, if you have a shit life, that's you interpreting as shit, but that's your choice, and you can turn around and say, you know what, my life isn't shit, my life's really good, actually, and then take it from there.
Which is fine unless you actually are in a really like, that's easy to say as, you know, us and our kind of Western middle class existence, like probably less so if you're in, like, I don't know, some... I'm not going to. I know
what you're saying. But maybe, like, I mean, sure, all you can do is ever play with the cards you're dealt, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
You know, and
I just think it's the problem is just kind of saying that, well, let's not help people because that's what they've chosen. You know, like let's not help the homeless man because spiritually he has chosen to be a homeless man. You know, no, help the fucking homeless man. You know, or whatever.
Of course. But they would say like you know, if you're helping that person, then you know you have taken a step into the positive way of doing things. So do that, you know.
And if you are the homeless, he has chosen on some level to get help or whatever.
And if you are the homeless person, then you need to do something positive in your life. So, for example, don't be an alcoholic or don't be taking drugs. Just for example. You know? Things like that.
Yeah.
What was the next one? Principle of vibration. So nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This one was kind of interesting. This one took a little bit for me to click. And it was a good article from what was this website called? Forge of the Future or something like that. I'll find it for you, Tommy. You can put it in the show notes if you want. And she had written, we either vibrate at a state of harmony or a state of chaos, and this is within our control. The idea is to create a vibration that is determined by your higher self rather than by the negative ego. So this is the thing of, right, just kind of positive mental attitude or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know? And that, but as well, because everything vibrates, then like we're all connected, like the Rupert Sheldrake thing. You know, we're all somehow connected by these vibrations, and vibrating at a higher level, then you'll achieve more or go on to more. You know.
I think a good kind of representation of this is if you have a guitar, or any kind of musical instrument, and you play a note on a keyboard, or if you've, you know, decent pitch, sing a note, the equivalent string will start vibrating in unison with it. So it's that kind of idea that Stuart Wilde talks about this whole idea of oscillations, where he says that people oscillate at a certain kind of frequency, and he says he just makes up numbers, but say the average person oscillates at 20,000 kind of oscillations per second, and that's the same type of thing that car crashes happen at, or, you know, robberies or whatever. But if you walk on yourself and you get up to 50,000, then you're kind of out of the scope or out of the range. You don't vibrate with that string. And I mean, that you go, well, that's very new agey kind of thought. But then you think of pendulums, and it's the exact same. It's you no longer vibrate with the pendulum. You don't swing with it. You're not kind of in its vortex. It's the same. It's like, I know that it's another cliche. It's like everyone's saying the same thing with different words.
Well, think of it another way as well. It's kind of like, say you want something, let's say you want good health and your health's in a bad way, you know.
Yeah.
Now obviously you have to do something about it, but they would kind of say is that right, you need to stop looking in the mirror and saying, fuck, I'm going to get old and die of cancer. You need to say, actually, I'm not too bad for my age, but I
Yeah.
can get better.
Yeah,
So this
yeah,
is
yeah.
positive. And so this idea takes on a kind of vibration, but then you need to tune your body into that vibration for it to work in
Yeah.
harmony, you know, and get balance. And then, you know, if you work on yourself, you're obviously going to get healthier. You know,
Yeah.
stop smoking.
And you have to be
whatever.
careful, I suppose, that when you're working on health, your focus can actually be on the bits that aren't healthy. Like Alan Watts talks about that an awful lot, but not an awful lot, in one particular lecture where he says that, you know, that if you're working on feeling beautiful or whatever, you're constantly looking in the mirror and seeing how you're not. So it becomes an affirmation of lack rather than an affirmation of positivity. And so it's just, you know, it's again, drop the importance on it, but, you know, still have it as a kind of a thing. It's a tough one though. It's kind of like the luster result, you know. Do not think about that thing you want. that you need, that you want. Just don't think about it. You know. But I understand, like, the more you know yourself, that when if you've like, the more attention you give something bad, the bigger it seems. Like, you know, and it gets blown out of proportion very quickly. Like,
Yeah.
particularly if you're a drama queen like me. Oh, my eyes! Oh, I'm dying!
Yeah, how many fucking videos have you done about your eyes at this stage?
I know, yeah. Jesus, even I'm bored to death.
Here, the next one. The next one I did like. This one clicked straight away. The last one was a little bit harder for me to get in the book. See, and the book as well, it's written, it's 100 years ago. And it's written kind of airy-fairy 100 years ago. It's like, what? What's he on about here, you know? But, yeah, next one is polarity. Polarity is good. This one's an easy one to get because it's like, let me read it here. Everything is dual, everything has poles, everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same, opposites are identical in nature but different in degree. Extremes meet, all truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. So it's kind of like...
All stories are true.
Well, yeah, everything is true because that's if you want it to be true, then it's true. But as well, it's that like, okay, so you know, hot and cold, they're opposite to each other. No, they're not really actually, because if you look on a temperature gauge, one is just high and one is low. And where when does hot become hot and when does hot become cold? And that's down to your choice. Of what you want to believe, you know,
or your physical makeup. I mean, to humans, it's very different to a polar bear. What's hot?
Well, exactly, yeah. And there was a really interesting part of this, I thought, when they're writing it, and it reality transurfing obviously comes from this as well, and it's that your emotions. So negative emotions lead to more negativity in your life, more anger. Being angry leads to more anger, etc. More hate leads to more hate.
Stuff. Yeah.
But the way to break it is to just turn the mirror on it, become polar to it. So it's kind of like, I've started doing this with the young lad. When he gets angry and he's in a tantrum, instead of me fighting back, being the choleric that I am, just give him a big smile, a big hug, give him love, you know, and it works. You know, but as well,
it works when you're able to do it.
Well, it's hard, man. It's fucking hard with young lads. I know that. Jesus Christ, my young fella drives me. I love him, but he drives me at the fucking wall. But that's also in reality transurfing. And there's this thing which is also in reality transurfing, and it's that negativity leads to other negativity very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But the way to break it is through positivity, and you know, negativity will have a cost on you and on something in your life, whereas positivity doesn't have a cost. It only leads to better things.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
And the Hermetics had a thing that when Hermes was having, because all these teachings came from a vision he had of meeting God.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Was he a marshmallow?
He was a marshmallow, exactly. Actually, it's mad. It's in the Manly P. Hall one. It's explained well. He comes down as a dragon. And Hermes fucking shits himself. He's like, oh my God, like, what the hell are you? And then the dragon turns into like Poromandius or something like that. And he's like, okay, I'm the spokesman for God. I'm going to tell you everything. He's like, okay, thank God. I was fucking scared of that dragon, man. He's like, well, I am the dragon. Oh, okay. You don't have to be scared. Okay. Let me just wrap my head around this. So he tells him all the things anyway. And one of the things was that it's this kind of belief in reincarnation, in that we should always be trying to better ourselves. And if we aren't, then we're in a spiral of badness and negativity, and hate and anger will just end up feeding on everything around it, and then itself. It turns in on itself, and then it kills itself,
Right.
kind of thing. So, and I kind of what's interesting there is that, whereas with religions, they all kind of have this kind of God figure who's like, why did he create hate, kind of thing. But I think this God is like, well, hate is there because people choose it,
Right.
and that's not the way to get to me, to get to the higher planes of existence and whatnot, or to get back to being eternal and whatnot, immortal. Because that's the end game of Hermeticism, is to
Return
go
to the
through,
Godhead.
Yeah, to go through enlightenment and to return to the Godhead, and then like even in that, like there's all these different stages and different kind of beings you can become, so like angels, etc.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's mad. What was the next one? That was polarity, wasn't it? Rhythm. So everything flows in and out. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. So it's a little bit like polarity, except that if you imagine that, like my hot and cold metaphor there, instead of the polarity of going down to the cold, it's that you can get to the top of one thing and then also go to the top of the next one and keep along that kind of way,
Is it also saying, though, I suppose, is it like the whole thing of there's seasons in your life and there's all that kind of stuff, or is it a completely different, like saying, like tides, like is it saying sometimes you've good times, sometimes bad times, and that's to be expected?
It is, but also remember, it's in reality transurfing is to try and not be detached from your life, but it's to kind of live your life as a witness, seeing your life,
Right.
and instead of giving in straight away to anger, kind of just wait another second and kind of try and process what's going on before you get angry. Like, you can still get angry, but know exactly why you are, instead of just giving in.
It's your choice rather than it being a loop or an automaton.
So the thing is to try and stay. The lady writes again. The idea is to stay even-minded, whether you have profit or loss, pleasure, pain, sickness, or health, victory, defeat, rejection, or praise. So it's just kind of to see that, okay, look, things are bad now, but maybe tomorrow it'll be all right, because we're going to have good times and bad times, but to try and stay level-headed about it so that you can experience it the best, I suppose.
Yeah. So it's if you're having a bad time, not to jump to the conclusion that life is shit, basically.
Yeah. Because tomorrow it'll be grand,
And then the next day it mightn't be, and that's fine too.
Yeah, that's fine too. Just know that, there's more to it than what you're experiencing, and try to experience it that way, more objectively. Maybe not objective isn't the right word, but more like a witness to your life.
Experientially, or whatever way that's
it's like instead of being reactive all the time, kind of just say, oh, okay, why am I being reactive, or what's the best way to react in this situation, rather than just like, there's only one or two left, isn't there? Two left. The principle of cause and effect. So every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause, everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not yet recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. What do you make of that?
Well, I suppose this is where we get the kind of weird idea of karma, I suppose. Like, technically karma just means when you do something, something happens.
Yeah.
Whereas we've kind of, in the West particularly, have turned it into, if I do something good will happen to me. If I do something bad, it's going to come on, which is not the strictest speaking, but it's not what karma is. But
that's Hollywood karma, isn't it?
Well, it's one of those weird things, because that when we say karma, that's what we mean now. So it's not, I can't go to, that's actually your wrong use of karma. Well, more people use karma that way.
Yeah.
So which is right. But I suppose traditionally karma just means for every action there's, well, not necessarily an equal but opposite, but for every action something happens when you do something, and that's just the way it is. Something will always happen. Which I think that's just what's been pointed to here, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it's not determinism or destiny or anything. It's not saying that it's already been decided, or is there a suggestion of that, right?
No, it's saying that, like, we all have, like, there is actual free will, and you have a choice how you want to see the world and how you want to master the world. And the thing is that, like, the first thing to master is your mind. Once you master your mind, then that's the key to unlocking everything else.
Okay.
And once you get that, then just the fucking there's no limit to what you can achieve, because you know you and you know yourself, and you know everything about yourself in your mind. Like, I mean, none of us are there. Like, that's fucking enlightenment properly, you know.
Yeah.
The lady says the average person in the world is an effect, not a cause. They are an effect and victim of thoughts, feelings, opinions, yada yada. The master rises above all and has a great deal of mastery over these things. The key for most people of the earth, on the earth plane, is to gain mastery over your mind, which will lead to mastery over your emotions and desires, and also mastery over your physical body and appetites.
I really like that line. Most people are an effect rather than a cause. That's awesome. That goes at kind of in what. Remember all the videos I was making? Remember when you were allowed outside? Remember years ago when you were allowed outside?
Yeah.
And I was just talking about, do I exist as a person? And it's kind of that kind of thing of like you're just reacting to loops and thoughts of just other people and different things, like so that in an effect you're just being an effect.
Yeah,
that's great. I really like that. That's something you could go. Oh, I could work with that.
It's the like there's some. I think the reality transfer film would be frailing. And frailing is getting people to do what you want them to do, but by being like. But the reality transfer thing is right. I'm going to make you do something for me, but I'm going to give you something first.
Right. Okay.
Kind of thing, No. It says in the Kybalion as well that, like, I mean, this can be used for not good things.
Right, okay, yeah.
But a true follower of Hermeticism only has the best goals anyway.
What is that? The Star Wars thing? A Sith never deals in absolutes or something? What's that?
Oh, God, yes, something like that. I don't know.
Jedi
it is something like that, yeah. It is something like that. So, like, a true Hermetic or follower of Hermes doesn't use these, skills he has for bad.
A true follower of Hermes is a good boy. You wouldn't do anything wrong.
But I like it as well, because it's like, right, once you master yourself, master your mind, master your body.
Once you give those simple things out of the way.
Exactly. But I mean, it's the best starting point, because, like, it's Jordan Peterson's fucking make your bed, isn't it?
Clean your room.
Clean your room. Like, once you have control of your own life, then you can start other stuff.
Well, that's it. Tend to the part of the garden that you can reach. It's pointing at the same thing.
Right. There's the last one in the principle of gender. So gender is in everything. Gender has its masculine and feminine principles.
Touchy subject now. These
speaking
days.
of Jordan Peterson, gender manifests on all planes, and like this is something I struggled with when I was in secondary school. We were doing Spanish.
Right.
In secondary school, and I always had a problem figuring out because it's like, what language did you do in school? Probably French or German, was it?
German.
Yeah, so German, der, die, das.
Yeah.
You have masculine, feminine, and neutral words, and same in Spanish. You have masculine, feminine, and neutral as well. It's very hard
French
for English
too, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, all the Latin ones, German as well. But it's strange that German has it and English doesn't. Yeah, but then again, English has the, and an. And all the Slavic languages don't have that.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, like you have a plural of horse and horses, but you don't have a horse. It's just horse.
Horse. Oh, right.
No, it's not. It's never the horse. It's just horse.
So that's like great. The Irish expression of saying hello to someone. Horse.
How are you, horse?
How are you, the horse?
So for me in school, this was always hard to wrap my head around. But when I did wrap my head around it, that's when I kind of got then.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there a thing in those languages that you can work out, or is each word got its own rule?
Sometimes.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes that, like, a woman's dress is obviously going to be a feminine word, but then again you have stuff like table. Why is table feminine?
Yeah.
Because fucking women make the fucking food, dickhead. Okay, well then how come a man's boot is feminine? Because fucking I don't know. Jesus Christ, Tommy. I'm not becoming a saint anymore.
No. That's why I have to set up my own cult. No one will invite me as a saint into theirs.
But once you do get this idea and you're familiar with other languages, then this is a lot easier to understand. Because you can see, okay, now I get where they're coming from. That there's a male and female in everything, and it's like. Kind of like yin and yang, I suppose. There's an element.
Is it the idea of like that the male principle is that that thing which goes forth, which, like, in a sense, ejaculates out into the world, puts forward, goes to, and where a female thing is a receptacle, or is a kind of is that the idea?
Yeah,
That
there's
comes up
part
in
of
other
it, but
things.
they really stress in the book, like, this has nothing to do with sex. This has nothing to do with
yeah.
sex or gender. Just nothing to do with it. But it's kind of like a female principle or feminine principle would be she's the thinker, while a male principle is the doer.
Right.
So she's the smart one, really.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
Do you know?
I know that's true.
But it's also a belief that there's union in everything, because male and female union brings it all together. But it's yin and yang. Like there's masculine, feminine. There's feminine in masculine. So it's a bit like polarity, but it's also different. Like it's funny that there's these 7 rules, but a lot of them are kind of similar to each other as well.
Yeah.
But that's probably just to prove the point. Yeah, but that's probably just to prove the point that these are all related to one another and can help. I mean, look, I don't know. To sum it up, I think if you could master them and live your life according to them, I think you'd be a wonderful human. If you could do it, and regardless of if an Egyptian god came up with them or someone copied them off of Plato's teachings or whatever, it doesn't matter a fuck. Like, I mean, I think they are. There's a lot for anyone to take away from, and I think what I find most interesting is that philosophies that have come afterwards and religions that have come afterwards, there's all bits of this in it. And if he was who they claim he was, well, then he was right back there at the very fucking start of all this stuff, which is it fucking blows my mind that, like, could you imagine that, like, one man writes, let's just say he wrote 10 books, like he writes 10 books, and that has filtered into all of the major religions since then. That's insane. Like. Imagine having that much power.
And I guarantee you, most people don't know his name.
No, probably not. No.
Or would have a vague know what kind of Hermes is, in the sense of the Mercury, the kind of the guy who looks like the Flash.
Yeah, I mean,
will you go into more into Hermeticism, or are you kind of? See, I think my problem with Hermeticism is, I think what happened was I kind of conflated it with Gnosticism for a long while, and then I was kind of, oh no, it's a completely different thing. Yeah,
it was the other way, because it would be Gnosticism would come from this. Gnosticism is this mixed with a bit of Christianity. Yeah. Or no, maybe not a bit of Christianity, like the actual Christianity. It's what Christianity is supposed to be. Yeah. I was looking up more about those John the Baptist people. They're fascinating, and do you know why there aren't many of them?
Well,
they don't like to. They like to have sex. Obviously, they're human, but they don't like to make life, because they see that as trapping the light.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That notion before, the Gnostics,
like, a cool idea.
Here is hell. This is a trap. So don't make any more of us.
They have this belief that the God who made the universe is a fuckwit, and everything is a mistake. Everything's a mistake. What's it called?
The demiurge.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
It's the God, and then there's Sophia, which is above the demiurge, and then there's the God above God, and all that stuff. It's interesting stuff. But it's I really like Gnosticism, but it's mostly when I'm in my most nihilistic mood of, like, this is shit, isn't it? Yeah, fuck it all. And then when I'm in a good kind of positive, happy mood, I go, oh no, it's not. Please don't be true. I don't want that to be true.
I mean, what I like about all of these ancient ones is that, like, is this thing about reincarnation, and as well, now that I know that the early Christians, and not just the Gnostics, like what became the Roman Catholic Church, they taught it as well. So maybe there's something to it. And if you're starting off on this rung, and then through this life you're going to get to the next 1 or 2 where you can skip up 2 or 3. Just as long as you're not going down, then you're doing something right then.
Yeah. And does the Hermeticism allow for going backwards too? I assume it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's all the negativity stuff.
Yeah.
And then the negativity, it goes down so much in hate that it just eventually consumes itself and kills itself. But the way to get up is love and happiness and peace, and just be nice, man. That's all it is. Nice. Like, be nice, we'll be fine. But as well, like, to challenge yourself and to keep learning, and to I mean, what's mad about it is that, like, there's all these conspiracy type of stuff that like the apparently the Masons, they worship Hermes and they worship his teachings, and they have like the inner fucking secret stuff that no one else actually knows about. Mandy P. Hall writes that. Now I know his book's 100 years old, but he says that like the closest guarded stuff, that's the Masons have that.
Right.
And there's a few other people as well, and he suggests that there's a bloodline from Hermes.
Great stuff.
No, man, I love that, man.
I love it, but
stuff.
it's like,
it's nonsense.
yeah.
No, but like I'd go as far to say, okay, then maybe the Masons fucking know something, all right, because that's an ancient order of just madness, you know. What we think we know about it.
Depends on who you believe.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Very new. So which do you prefer, having spent time with both, or does it matter, reality transurfing or the Kybalion? Like which you think is?
I think probably reality transurfing, to be honest, because but like if you know these 7 principles, then a lot of reality transurfing comes from that, but it just expounds on them and adds other things as well for more kind of a modern take on it, maybe, you know, I think. But then again, I mean, it's a smaller book, the Kybalion.
yeah. It's just, I suppose, with the Kybalion, with the principles, it's probably easier to explain the principles of reality transurfing because they're, you know, they're more. There's more in it, like rather than with the, as we were saying about the 7 principles of Kybalion. It's like they're very similar, all of them. So it's like, so how is that different? Exactly. Whereas pendulums are very different from frailing, which is very different from renting yourself out or whatever that.
I like the book though, and I think I'll come back to it every now and again and just kind of refresh myself. Same with reality transurfing, because every time you open a page on it, you'll remember something that you might have forgotten, or else you'll. I don't know. It's just kind of good to have a bit of philosophy in your life to make sure that you're not being a dick.
Yeah.
You know. Sometimes you have to have a check on your life to be like, yeah, I'm acting like an arsehole. What the fuck am I doing?
Or even if if you're in a position where you don't know what to do or whatever, you can go, well, what would the Kybalion say here? What would the reality transurfing say here? What would, things that for the most part seem to be helpful, if you're stuck in a thing.
And like plus as well, like there's like if you read any modern philosophy, or like I listen to the odd philosophy podcast and all, and like the stuff they talk about, it's still like. Philosophy hasn't changed. It's still like, why are we here? Which is what it was 5,000 years ago. What am I doing here? How do I be a good man? Is there a point in being a good man? Well, what's the fucking point? Like, it doesn't change. So I'm just a fan of that anyway. The more you know about this stuff, the more you can question, the more you can ask of yourself, the more you can improve on yourself. It's just, that's the point of being here, isn't it? Just try and better yourself every day.
Or if you're not into any of that, don't do that. That's fine.
Or just go to Pornhub and fucking wank yourself into an early grave. Whatever. I don't care. Bye-bye.